that hooking up yet? Let's see if this actually works.
Says it's connected.
Fingers crossed.
Looks like it's about a 10-second delay.
That's normal. Okay, you start.
Hey guys, welcome back to Sprague Homestead. I'm Kanan.
I'm Nikki.
And we haven't done a live stream in, maybe like a year since then. And we
At
recently decided, why not try it, Why not go for it? So here we are.
Yeah, it's been a while. Our connection has been really bad ever since the bootleg fire a year and a half ago. It seems to have gotten better lately, and we've upgraded our internet package just a skosh. So we're hoping that's going to make some kind of difference. We'll kind of see. Okay. Well, I asked if anybody had questions and nobody had anything. So I guess we'll just kind of start with what we always started with and kind of an update around here. I know we did our goal videos, but we really haven't done an update. So there, naturally in the winter, there's not a whole lot going on. It's just kind of survival mode. We did get some snow in December, followed by a whole bunch of rain, followed by a whole bunch more rain in January. So we got kind of the northern edge of that beautiful atmospheric river that went through California. So one night alone, they said in a 24-hour period, some locals here said we got like 2.25 inches, and we don't have a rain gauge, so I don't know for sure, but I can tell you it was a very, very, very wet. We actually had enough water running back past the back door that water came up into the mudroom just a little bit. It actually got up onto the rug, and then the rug just whipped the water up. So it's been interesting. Right now, we had some more snow. It's all melted down again, so we are in Mudville.
Yep.
Which is beautiful when you have 3 house dogs. Everybody is always muddy. So trying to keep up with keeping paws clean and all that kind of stuff is a full-time job at this point. But that's kind of been the big thing. Back in the fall, we culled a bunch of flocks, got our numbers down. We just recently sold some goats, some extra males that were hanging around that we had planned to just go ahead and eat. And honestly, I ran out of time in the fall. They've just been sitting there eating hay ever since, which at the price that we're paying for hay is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So I stuck a price up online, and somebody drove up from North Cali to pick them up, a meat buyer. We knew that's what they were going for. No big deal. After smelling them for like 3 months, we were perfectly okay with them going for meat. It was no big deal. So that kind of happened. We've still got some does for sale. I've got a couple of Nubian does, some Nigerian dwarves. So we got some stuff. None of my fall breedings with the rabbits took. Not a single one. Kind of a blessing in disguise because we went sub-zero several times and dealt with weeks and weeks and weeks of frozen water, which is no fun when you're trying to keep the rabbits hydrated, especially if they have babies. So I was kind of glad. They're still kind of giving me stink eye a little bit over trying to breed. And this weekend, I think Sunday, the overnight's going to be like 2. So I'm not panicked yet over the fact that they're not breeding. I'm hoping they're going to very, very soon. I do have some rabbits that were juniors in the fall that I'll be showing this spring just to get out there and do some showing. So I see a ton of stuff coming in, and I see Kanan's answering. So what do we got?
Heather asked if we had a name for a snowblower yet, and I said no.
I never thought about naming it, to be honest. I'll take suggestions. I thought about Blowy McBlowhole, but that's just kind of long. It's kind of,
And then Heather asked about having silver fox in the future.
I'm waiting on Heather to make me some silver fox. If that's Heather Keller. It is.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm waiting on you to make me some silver fox, babe.
Michael Presley said he just picked up 5 silver fox, 4 does, and a buck.
Excellent. Fox are really, at least, I mean, Heather's a director with the club, but it seems to me, anyway, from the emails and stuff I get, that silver fox are seeing a pretty nice little uptick. Now, if they'd only have the correct fur, because that's the thing that I'm seeing, like another friend of mine has fox. I've been hanging out with her a little bit, going through litters, and overall, my friend Deanna has a really nice fur, but every now and then we're still getting those that have the really silky. It's definitely not standing, and it's not a true rollback, so it's a really slow rollback. And I understand that that seems to be coming from, because these particular rabbits have some chocolate in the background, and to bring in that chocolate gene, they use the satins, and these things are having a little higher sheen than we think they should, and the softer, almost a slow rollback kind of fur. So I'm assuming that's where it's coming from. Of course, Deanna is doing the right thing and culling them, because, you know, what makes a fox is the fox fur. You know, you take that away and then it's just a black rabbit with silver ticking.
So Heather said that fur can be soft and it's subjective. And then Michael's asking, his rabbits are 11 weeks old, and he's saying they should be 7 to 8 months before breeding.
Yeah, 7 to 8 months for breeding. Depending on what it is, I like closer to 9, but yeah, at least 7 to 8. Make sure they're most of the way to senior weight is the big thing. So does, off the top of my head, should be probably 10. The old rule of thumb with stuff used to always be get it within 10% of senior weight. So if they're in that 7 to 8 ballpark and hitting 9.5 pounds, that's probably pretty good. I'm sure it's getting really crackly because Kenyon's opening something behind you. Behind the camera, not behind you. Do you need it?
Yep.
Small house problems. Okay.
That's it.
How are we doing?
We're caught up.
Okay.
Heather says, I was going to say there's snacks happening.
Not snacks.
Snacks.
But
seeds.
something Heather will get excited about.
That's right.
Let's see what else is going on. So yeah, my Martin project is going, but going slowly. They bred good in the summer. They missed in the fall, and have, believe it or not, the does have been interested and the bucks have been no fly. They just nothing. I put a doe in 2 weeks ago, and the one black buck is now starting to act interested. So I'm hoping that means we're about to do something. And then the Harleys are just waiting for me to get off my tuchus. The ones that I bred in the fall didn't take, but I kept a whole bunch of young does back, and God help me, they're a little bit ugly compared to what I normally keep. But we had our herd starting to age out a little bit, so I kept stuff that was a little bit good sized, and there's good things there. Not everything I want it to be, of course, but good stuff there. What do we got?
Mike was just saying, here's sorry for the questions. These new to rabbits only have goats, chickens, quail, and pheasants.
Ooh, nice. What kind of pheasants do you got? I've got ringnecks. They are I got a couple of things. I've got a melanastic hen. I've got a buff trio or buff pair now, and then then an extra buff, and then a cinnamon, and they're all ringnecks. I got them from a friend who bought a rare pheasant pack, and had called before they shipped and said, I need to know what kind these are, because she's in Montana, and she said, we cannot have ringnecks. I don't have the tags for it. I just, but if she was hoping for like Lady Amherst and Golden and all that fun stuff, and they said, oh yeah, no, they're rare. They're super rare. And she got them, and they were all ringnecks. And she was like, I can't have these. So I met her. She came down into Oregon, and I met her and took them off her hands. And of course, I hadn't had pheasants since high school, and I forgot that they're extremely flighty. really prone to killing themselves. So I think I brought home like 8 and we're down to 5 or 6. Yeah. One mysteriously disappeared. We don't know where it went. There was no sign of it being killed in the pen. There's no way it made it out of the pen. They're still locked inside right now. So no idea where that pheasant is. If they've killed her, they've buried her too, because there was literally no sign of her.
Michael says he has red, golden, yellow, golden ringnecks. And then Heather asked, with our soil and excess water and snow, does it drain well? Any mitigation tips?
With the with the melt, it drains until it doesn't. Like the first, I'm trying to think. So we had a bunch of rain, then we had snow, and then it melted. And the first 3 or 4 times that the snow melted, the water was gone. It just sucked it up. But then, at one point we had 2.5 feet of snow, and it all melted. And at some point, the ground just can't take anymore. So because we're in a meadow, I mean, Heather's been here, she knows, it's because we're in a meadow, we have lots of naturally occurring drainage areas, right? So over by my rabbit barns, I've got all my little bridges, and the water it kind of carves a path through the goat pens and down past the rabbit barns, past the back chicken barns, and then it heads right down, and then it actually curves back around into our back meadow. So it kind of goes and goes and goes. There's no real, I'd like to do some stuff to like stop or at least get it to slow down a little bit. But I don't know that any of that's going to work real well at the house. This summer, when it dries out a little bit, I'm going to be renting a small backhoe or excavator or something. We have a lot of dead trees piled up around here from when the fire came through in like the 90s. And I'm going to basically go through and more or less try and do some swales and some semi-hugelculture type stuff. So I'm going to basically dig ravines all over the place and then stack all these old rotting logs in, because up here or down here, it doesn't really, they don't rot, right? Because one, they've got some fire danger or damage, but the other thing is it's so dry. So even though they'll hold water all winter long above ground, by about June, they're dried out. So they stop rotting. They just don't do anything. The ones on the bottom of the pile are still kind of rotting, but not well. So I'm going to stick them in the ground. So hopefully they will act as giant sponges and actually try and do something with it. But here on the main 20 where we live right now, I have to be really careful, because where the water runs best, if I back the water up too much, I am concerned that we'll create too much mud and too much moisture near the barns. And right now, the way the barns are built, they're more or less, we built up more or less on both of them. The one sits slightly lower so that we do get some water coming off the driveway that will actually turn and go into the barn. So there's still mitigation work to be done there. But for the most part, we've got it kind of like steered out and around the buildings. Most people are real worried about moving water. I don't worry about moving it out. I want to make sure that as much is getting into the ground as possible. But here, it's still a matter of the moisture quits coming in like May, and by July, the ground is dry. So we have a lot of rock in our soil, which is the other thing. But we continue to, throw fertilizer in the way of manure out and try and soak up that water and just try and add organic matter to it. It's all we can do at this point. But I'm real hesitant to do too much swale digging or, anything else to back that water up. The other thing is, if I back the water up here, then it's not making it to the meadow. And I really want it to make it to the meadow and hold on back there, because I can cut that meadow for hay, which I can't do up here. So
Michael asked how many rabbits we have, and do we keep them or kept them in a colony?
No, I hate colonies. We are down to Oh boy, we are down to about 50, 55, somewhere in there across all 3 breeds. That's a huge downsize for us. I've got about 20 empty cages right now, 25 empty cages, which is huge. So I am not a proponent of colonies. A lot of people have been around here for a while and know that I can't stand them. They are a disease nightmare. Domestic rabbits are from European rabbits. European rabbits really do not colonize. And the strains of European rabbit that do colonize, our domestics are removed from by literally hundreds of years at this point, right? So they've been mostly raised cages, hutches, sometimes pairs, but really not. So what we find is rabbits are terribly territorial, especially does. You would think it's the bucks, but it's actually the ladies that are more likely to fight to the death over space. What they now say from the really cool biologists and things that I read over in Europe, they say that if you're going to do a colony setting, you need approximately 15 square feet per pound of rabbit. So you're talking a 10-pound doe needs 150 square feet of space for her, just for her. They say to calculate another like 50 square feet for a litter. And that's if you're removing the litter like 8 to 10 weeks. So that's a lot of space, like a lot of space. I personally, I think it's a poor management technique. I think it's for lazy people. I know I'll get some pushback on that, but in a cage, hutch, single animal environment, one, they're more secure because they have their own space. But two, you can monitor for illness and disease and diet, and you'll know. I mean, rabbits are one of those things that if they hit the 24-hour mark off a feed, you're in trouble. You can't tell that in a colony. You just can't. You can't watch the water intake like you should. There's just a lot of stuff that in a colony you can't see. And being prey animals, you don't know there's a problem until there's a problem. So, not a fan of it. Most people I see that do colonies do a really poor job of it. The spaces are too small. They're too confined. They get real excited about, they're having litters and sharing the nesting responsibilities. And really what that is there's one prime nest and both does want it. And so they're not co-parenting anything. They're just using the same nest. And half the time kits get killed or moms will chew legs off of juniors that aren't theirs. It's really kind of a mess. I have yet to see anybody that does a colony, like a true colony, and does it really, really well. There is a gal that does Angoras out somewhere past us, like Beatty Bly, somewhere out there. That's a friend of my friend, Deanna, and she's made it work. But it's not a breeding colony, and it's only it's a big colony of just does. The bucks are kept separate because bucks are bucks, and they'll pee on each other, which is really bad in fiber. But the does, she runs does together, but she's not really breeding them. And if she's breeding them, those animals get removed, they get bred, they get put into their own cage to do the whole nesting momhood thing. And then they get slowly reintroduced back into the colony. And that works, I guess. I don't know her real well. I've only met her like once. So, and it's not a ground colony. It's a great big above ground cage setup. And that might work. I mean, most of the people I see trying to do ground colonies are constantly fighting coccidia and parasites and all the uglies that are in the ground that domestic rabbits really don't have an immunity to.
What do you got there?
Why don't you tell me what's on the screen first?
Okay.
Because I'm kind of rambling.
Michael wants to know how long he has to worry about the does being together before they fight.
Depends on the breed. Like my Harlequins will live together until you take them apart, usually. Every now and then you'll get an aggressive doe. The Americans that I have, by about 4 months, are trying to rip each other's face off. I have not dealt with the silver fox a whole lot. I know that my friend Deanna, when she was trying to move hers around at 12 weeks, they were already fighting. So it kind of depends. I would not recommend keeping them together more than 10 or 12 weeks, but it's about space.
Carol asks about tractoring young grouse with a wire bottom cage.
I haven't done it. So here's my take on tractoring in general. If they are 100% meat rabbits and you're not worried about them, like if you get into something funky and pick up a disease, it's not the end of the world because it's not expensive replacement animals. Fine, you do you. Just know that when you raise them in a tractor on some forage, you will slow their growth rate. It's all a matter of mathematics, basically. You will slow them down, but what will you save in feed? And that I can't tell you because it depends wildly on what you're feeding, what the forage is, what breed you're looking at, what age you're harvesting. Generally, they say that if you take New Zealand's and put them in a forage tractor type situation where their feed consumption is cut back to half or less of commercial feed, you will slow them down by a month. But there again, it depends on what that forage is. That's the study I saw, but they never exactly specified what the forage was. There's also a learning curve, right? If you take them at 8 to 9 weeks and introduce them to forage, if they're not used to it, then biologically they're not utilizing all of that until the gut starts to adjust, because rabbit guts are not fully formed until like 10 to 12 weeks. So it really does kind of depends. I'm going to do some videos and some experimenting with it this year. I hope to have some litters due maybe in a month and a half. That'll put me out trying to do them in tractors by about May, which for us is about when the grass and everything starts to show up. So I'm going to try it a little bit, and hopefully later this summer I'll have some answers for you. I fully intend to, most of my does tend to have pretty big litters, so I'm going to split the litters, do half in the barn in cages and half out on pasturing type situation and track them that way. So we have a really good idea. I think that's the best way to do it, because every genetic combination, like you can't take one litter and do it and the other litter do something else, because it doesn't tell you anything. But I'm going to try splitting some litters and see what we get out of that. So more to come on that, because I'm not a big fan, but like I said, if you're going to eat them, then parasites and disease and all the rest is, as long as it's not something humans contract and very little of it is, you should be okay.
Heather wants to know about that new pressure canner, pros and cons.
My Heather?
Yeah.
My Heather's asking me about that pressure canner. Girlfriend, it is my new best friend. I was running that thing this summer about 3 loads a day, and it is like idiot proof. So for people who don't know what I'm talking about, I have the, in fact, it's probably sitting out. I have the ball, what is it? Presto Precise. It's not ball. It's Presto Precise. So it's an electric canner. It's an electric pressure canner, and it's a little bit smaller than the 23 quart I was used to doing on the stove. On the stove, we have propane. So propane is a little finicky to dial in exactly right, and it takes forever, especially where we're at. It takes forever to get it up to pressure. It takes forever to get it going. So you sit there for hours, and then you've got to, then you actually start timing, and you can't go anywhere because the propane is iffy. So you've got to sit there forever. The Presto Precise, once I'm done and it's in, I click a button, it does its own thing. Once it hits, the whole 10-minute thing, it'll tell you to put the regulator on. You put the regulator on, you hit the button, and you're done. You just walk away. It'll go through the rest of it. It'll get itself up to pressure. It'll time. Then it'll go through cool down, and then it'll finally tell you like 10 minutes before it's done. Like jars are about ready to come out. It'll beep, and it'll like, hey, idiot, your canner's about done. And then it'll go all the way off, and it'll beep again to tell you that it's finished, and you just come and click the done button. And usually it's really about done, like the lock's already off and everything. If not, the lock is usually done within like a minute or 2, and you pull everything out. The only complaint I have is it's a little bit smaller. But for us, that actually tends to work. I hate doing great big batches because I don't want to be in the kitchen all day. So I can put a quick batch together, put it in, can it, come back later and do a quick batch of something else. And it's worked really well. Yeah. I mean, like, I feel he could can in it. I mean, wow. he won't, but wow. He could. Like, it really is. There's like a laminated sheet with it. I mean, it's really dummy proof. It is a little expensive. It's like, well, I don't know what they're going for. I got mine for like $2.49 through Bimart. I think they're amazing. What the lifespan on it's going to be, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the big thing is I looked online and nobody really tells you how many canner cycles to expect. I don't think most people put it through the usage that we put it through. I mean, I must have done 40 batches this last year.
Oh, no, I would have more than that. We're doing 3 a day for like a week straight.
Yeah, that's true. And you can water bath in it and pressure can in it, which is really nice. And it's idiot proof either way, like super easy. I hate trying to do water bath here too, because it takes so long to get the water to boil. And then you've always got that moment of, when do I consider this boiling enough to start the timer? It figures it out. It knows exactly what temperature it's at and it goes from there.
So Joanne says she missed seeing Collie noses sneaking between us.
I knew her tail was right here a minute ago.
They went to take a nap.
Yeah, they're napping. We just came in from chores and this is when they hit their siesta. Yeah. Trust me, they'll both be in videos plenty this year. Yeah. For sure, Liza, but Katie's almost as big, and I need to get some more videos of her. So Liza did a funny thing where she started shedding in like October, November. So she's looked terrible. She's looked rangy. She's looked awful. But the baby, oh my gosh, the baby has a full-blown magnificent collie coat. She's, the huge white collared ruff. She's magnificent looking. She's still a brat, as 7-month-old children will be. She's a bit of a brat, but she's beautiful. She's beautiful.
Let's see. So Mima's Hippobilly Homestead said, I have a New Zealand. They have New Zealand's. The herd is line bred, a buck that come up with malocclusion on the bottom. Clipped it twice. It needs clipped again. They have hay and pellets. Is this a genetic issue?
Okay, first of all, quit wasting your time with the buck and cull him. It never corrects. You'll never correct it. It's just a waste of effort. As far as if it's genetic, maybe. So there are a couple of things that cause malocclusion. You have the genetic component. You have nutritional components. Mm-hmm. And you also have injury. So if your herd is line bred and this whole time, there's a collie nose, you've not had any malocclusion problems, there's always a pretty good chance that it's not genetic, that maybe got stepped on, maybe there's something else going on when it was little. Because I have a hard time believing it's nutritional if nobody else has got it. But it could be. It genuinely could be. So how you can check for this, like the easiest way to check, because malocclusion is a recessive characteristic, hold on to him for just long enough to get a few litters out of him and understand that they are 100% culls. Absolutely cull them. Do not keep anything from this buck in case it's genetic. Take this buck, breed him back to his mother or sisters or aunts or whatever you have, breed him back and see if it pops out. If he's got it, malocclusion being a recessive means that it's coming off the doe and the buck. Meaning if it is genetic, the fact that he's expressing it, his mother will have it too. So if you breed him back to mom and get zero chance or zero babies expressing it, there is a chance that it's not genetic. Unfortunately, there is also a chance that it is genetic and it's just not showing. You'd have to do the breeding multiple times. But don't keep them, mostly because it will be a chronic nightmare to keep up with. Rabbit teeth grow really, really fast. And like I said, in the event that it really is genetic, you don't want to be breeding that back in.
That was it.
Oh, he's typing and smiling, so I'm never sure what's going on there.
Joanne just said, Collie.
Collie, lots of
I
collies.
said, Katie won't come any closer. Yeah.
No, Katie has hit this juvenile. I'm gonna forget. It's an actual deal. Like it's a juvenile fear disorder thing that dogs can get between 6 and 18 months. And basically, she woke up one day and decided that all the floors in the house were lava except for the rugs. So we now have rugs all over the house in pathways that the dog can travel. Yeah, so she's been our quirky baby. One day it'll bother her, the next day she's fine. One day she can't go out in the mudroom because the floor is lava, and the next day she's fine. So it's kind of an ongoing deal.
Yep.
It's kind of the way it is.
Yep. And if there's food involved, she forgets all about the floor being a problem and will truck right through the house because there's food.
Who is training whom? That is a darn good question. I have not worked with her as much as I probably should.
We're trying though. She sits, she shakes, she bites.
She lays down. The little things for sure. The bigger problem with her is she's one of those dogs that you cannot get to focus, and part of that's her age. So she's really hard to work with when Liza is around, and Liza is mama's baby, so Liza is always around. So we're going to do some separation and do some training this summer, because big collie will take direction, little collie will interfere. And that's how kids are, right? So we're going to do some separation and try and do some work with them. I don't feel that she's got the herding instinct that her sister does. So there's that.
No, we're caught up. What you got here?
Okay.
What did I bring you?
These are from Survival Garden Seeds. So we've started a new partnership with Survival Garden Seeds. I'll have a unboxing video and all that fun stuff coming up probably this week.
Probably something like that.
This week or next week. And they're offering 10% off on these garden kits.
Yeah, so I'll explain it.
He knows more than I do.
I deal with all the kind of partner kind of deal. So Survival Garden, they have a lot of stuff on their website, but they want us to help with 3 different kind of these major packets. So they sent us a home garden packet. Now this has, I think this is the one with 30 heirloom seed packets.
Yep.
And they have a Homesteader, which is 50 heirloom seed packets. And then they have, I can't remember what the other one's called. It's like a Master Gardener or something, but it's like 100 seed packets. Yeah, so,
and they have these handy little zipper bags, and supposedly the bags, when it's a reusable package, if you store them properly, they tell you that the seeds remain viable 3 to 8 years, and you can use the fun little bag to store everything in. I will not open these tonight because we'll do it during the unboxing thing, because I'm kind of eager to see what all is in here. Yeah. You can't kind of see real well. I know I see some tomatoes and turnips and stuff. One of these I saw the word watermelon through, and I thought, I'm not sure if I can do watermelon here, but I'm willing to give anything a crack.
So yeah, so they've got 3 kits, 3 of these major kits that they are selling. We will put a link down in the description of this live video. Of course, all the stuff going forward with gardening. All you have to do is click on that link. It'll take you to their site with a reference to us. It should give you a 10% discount on the 3 packages or packets that they want to work with: a home garden, homesteader, and I want to say the one that was like a master gardener. I can't remember, but yeah, I'll put it down there. So there's 3 of those.
The big thing is heirloom, open pollinated, non-hybrid, no chemicals, and they say they're guaranteed to grow.
Yeah, so I think nice. It's like a huge win-win. We'll have to see what's in them. Since we haven't opened them, I don't know what's in the 30, the 50, or the what scares me is it's like a bag of addiction if you like gardening, because it's like, here's 30 packets of seeds.
Well, here's what's funny to me about it is they so I buy my seeds early, because that's how you get the best selection, right? So I bought my seeds in December and early January. I had just gotten my last shipment from either Baker Creek or Territorial or Annie's, one of those 3. That's who I buy my stuff from. And not a week later, we got this email and said, hey, we'd like to have you as affiliates and partners. And I thought, I just spent a whole bunch of money on seeds. And that's just how it goes. So
yeah,
that's okay. Like
they'll keep. I mean, we'll do it right.
I'm sure Heather, if she's still around, can tell you can never have too many seeds. I bought a whole bunch of new tomato varieties, and in fact, my friend Heather gave me a whole, couple of different tomatoes back in the spring last year that we tried here that actually did pretty well, and then they took the colder temperatures pretty well. So I tracked all those down and bought seeds for them. So I'm very excited because, of course, I suck at remembering to save seeds. So I bought some seeds. Very excited. So we'll see how that's going to go.
Yeah.
Okay. What do we
got? Mostly Dennis and Joanne having a discussion back and forth.
Mm.
And
Okay.
the Happy Gardener says those seed companies are drug dealers. Once the buying starts, it doesn't stop. Which again, that's why I say it's a bag of addiction.
When the seeds catalogs start coming in, Kanan starts getting nervous. I got them and I thought, okay, I got this huge box of seeds, right? And I thought, I don't need anything. I just need, just one or two things. So I pulled out the highlighter, and pretty soon, like half the book was pink, and I thought, oh dear, this is too much. This is too much. So I cut it back, and then I got an email that was on Territorial, I think, or Annie's. I think it was Annie's, and then I got a sale notice from Territorial, and I was like, oh well. Okay, so I pretended I was doing the smart thing and shopping, right? Like, oh, well, these guys have the seeds for a little cheaper. Somehow I ended up buying like 3 times as many seeds. So I'm not real sure how that happened.
All right, so there's a question from Dennis. He's asking for a brief summary of how we grow and dry our forages, and then how do we store them, like in bunches, bag it, store it, etc.
Okay. I don't guess I've ever done a video on it. I have a great big 4-foot by 8-foot air drying rack.
Yeah,
basically.
We never made a video on that. I know we've had it for 2 years.
Yeah, I was gonna do one later on and never did. So I will have to make a video showing it. It's kind of briefly appeared in some videos in the background, I think. But anyway, I basically built this great big drying rack, and it's screen. And then the lid has screen because we get a lot of wind. So I wanted to make sure things don't blow. And basically I go through, and after I've harvested stuff for us, say the kale's getting a little overgrown or whatever it is, or maybe I'm just ready to cut a whole bunch for the rabbits. I go through and I cut everything, put it in a big bucket, shake or rinse it if there's a whole lot of dirt or anything on it, because the rabbits don't care. And then I dump it all over the trays. And here, with the extremely low humidity, kale will usually be all the way dry, crispy in 2 days. And then I just scoop it off into basically totes, snap a lid on it, and put it out. Store it in the barns.
Yeah.
That's if I'm drying it. I prefer to just feed it fresh, but if you plant enough, you'll have more than you can. Feed at a
I was
time.
thinking that if we can't remember if we cut grass to do it that way too. I know.
Oh yeah, I've cut all kinds of stuff. Like I'll go through, and if there's room left in it, I cut grass. Like wild plants that are growing, whatever it is. If I know they're rabbit safe, I just throw it in there. If it's really sunny and hot, I sometimes will move it over into the shade, because otherwise they'll get sunburned, and then you've got some nutritional leaching out of it. But yeah, and I go all the way to the whole, I want it to be pretty brittle. That way I know there's no humidity left in it. But I do dandelions that way, which can take a while because they've got that kind of sappy stem. Yeah. I just put it in a dryer. I've done it in the dehydrator in the house when we first started doing it. And of course it just runs the dehydrator like every single day. But so I built the big dryer, and I've been meaning to actually do a second one. But this last year I really didn't use it. It was just too busy, and I didn't grow a whole lot of stuff. But I just have a great big drying rack.
Yeah. And then Yeah, she puts it in totes, and we mix. So it depends on what kind of hay we get. A lot of times when we get hay in July, uh, sometimes she will come down with a couple bins there, and we'll mix it in there. So you'll get a flake of hay. You kind of break it all up in on the tote, and she'll pile in kind of the natural stuff here that's dried out and mix it all up, and then we just continually do that, like 1 or 2 bins. And I know we did that a couple of years ago. We did it over winter just to test it, and we put that aside and then just went and put it like in the storage.
Yeah, so I don't, once I dry it, I don't feed it straight, mostly because it gets really brittle. So I found that if you will layer it in your tote boxes with like some hay or alfalfa or whatever you're feeding and kind of mix it up, it, one, hay is never completely 100% dry. So you'll get just enough moisture to keep it a little bit more pliable, but not so much that it'll mold. So I found that I got less waste when I tried to sticking it in the hay feeders just as it was. I felt like it crumbled up too bad, and there was a little bit more waste. But for some reason, when I mixed it in with the hay, the hay holds on to it, especially kale, the like curly edged kale. It'll kind of, when it's dry, it'll still hold on to it. I felt like I got better usage out of it, and it fed better.
Joanne asked if we use regular or Timothy hay.
Most of what we get here is called this grass hay, and they don't really tell you. It's just hay. Timothy is fine. I have to be careful with Timothy. Like Timothy really gets my allergies going. Orchard grass is good for them. Hay is hay. Really, as long as it doesn't have a lot of other weeds in it, grass hay is grass hay. There's not a whole lot of nutritional difference. It's all about what they'll eat. The only thing that varies a whole lot is when you get into like oat hays or wheat hays or barley hay or alfalfa. You'll start to see a nutritional difference. So any hay is hay. We don't usually know what it is. They just tell us it's hay.
Right. That's it. So, that's caught up.
Okay. Wow. I was looking at the the comments that are getting flagged that are just horrible, nasty stuff. Yeah.
Rod, I'm not going to let that go.
It's flagging stuff that's got less desirable language in it that's really just spam. So there you go.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we're not that kind of channel, Rod. That's for the incognito tabs.
Yeah, no kidding. What else? That's kind of what's going on around here.
That's really it. I mean, we're just getting ready. We're still cutting firewood. We did a terrible job to get our firewood prepared. So we're probably have enough to get to maybe the end of February as we sit today, but we don't have enough. So I think Saturday morning is the next time we're gonna go see if we can get rid of Rod here.
Yeah, we need to do some more wood cutting. So what Kanan's saying is we completely dropped the ball in 2022. We usually cut our firewood into like November because it's usually pretty dry.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. When I went to convention at the end of October, I came back and it was totally snowing, and it never really quit. So we did not have enough firewood. We are down to roughly a cord, give or take.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
We'll burn wood all the way to like May. So not enough. So we're kind of piecemealing it. Luckily, we've got a whole bunch of down trees. So we have the trees out. The couple of cuttings that we went and did in December were fun because we got that big melt. And so we would go up, do the cutting, get the first load out. We went back up for a load. And on the way out, I buried the front end of the quad all the way to the axles. And that's a good, just over half mile from the house because it's on the back of the property. So we were a little concerned. We were up on top of a hill. It's not like you can go get the tractor or the truck. The snow is too deep. But she gripped good enough to drive backwards. So I was able to drive backwards up out of the mud. But it was very, very close. We almost lost the quad. So still cutting, still working on it. Most of what's down is junipers, which is pretty nice because they burn pretty good. So we could go buy wood. We're painfully cheap is part of it. And when you have a bunch of trees of your own already cut down, it's kind of frustrating to pay for it. So yeah, like they're down, they're junipers, so the limbs are holding them up, and they're keeping it dry, so it works.
Joanne asked if you can put a hardwood stick in with a rabbit.
So sticks, when it comes to rabbits, really kind of depend on what it is. Willow is best. Somewhere I have a list of what's acceptable and what's not. Like you can use things like apple and pear and that kind of thing, but you stay away from anything that's got high tannins. Like you don't use oak. You stay away from anything that comes off of pit trees. So like no peaches, no almonds, that kind of stuff. I will have to look and see if I have my list somewhere, and if I do, I'll try and put it in the community page deal on YouTube and see if I can share that, because there's quite a bit of stuff, but you have to be kind of careful. Like pine has fairly high tannins in it too, so you don't usually use pine. It's mostly willow is like the bomb, but it's mostly willow and some fruit trees.
Dennis asked if there's a way to keep a doe from eating her litter right after birth. He has one that's done it 3 different times.
Color. It's a genetic mothering instinct. Why they do that, especially 3 times in a row, unless she's old and suffering from malnutrition or some other disease, it's just a bad mother. Especially if she's a young doe. Sometimes they'll do it a first time, sometimes even a second time, but by the time you've got to a third, she's out of there. It's like I said, either she's got something really wrong with her, she's really got a nutrient imbalance, or most likely she's a bad mom, or she's scared. Like they'll do that especially if they sense predators are around. If there's a dog, a cat, a rat, whatever it is that's bothering her, they will kill and eat their offspring. And the reason killing them isn't enough. The reason they eat them is so that they don't rot, so they don't bring the predator even more, because mom is all about self-preservation at that point. So either she's just a horrible mother, which happens, or there is something else going on. I have had mothers refuse litters if something had gotten into the straw. Like we had straw out in the barn for a while, and I didn't realize wild rabbits were getting into it. And the does would have their babies in the nest box and then abandon them. But eating them is a whole nother thing. And I guess the bigger thing is, do you know if they were ever alive to start with? Is she eating them post-mortem, or is she eating them alive? Because if she's eating them alive, it's definitely a cull. If she's eating them dead, then you have to start looking at why are they dying. And if they're dying because she's killing them, then she's gone. There's something else going on there. There is no way to stop a doe from doing it. There's some reason that she's doing it.
He said she eats the babies and then puts her heads in the food bowl. And she's a beautiful doe. Yep, eater. Unfortunately, that kind of stuff is just cannibalistic, and sometimes you'll just get one that's cannibalistic. A friend of mine that used to do New Zealand's had a really nice New Zealand doe that won tons of legs at Grand Championed early. It was stunning. And she would literally start ripping apart and eating her babies as fast as she was birthing them. So it happens. I mean, it's a bummer deal, but it does happen. But yeah, I wouldn't waste any more time on her. I tend to run a 3 strikes and you're out of here. I mean, like, that's, you can chalk up a screw up to a first time doe. Sometimes a second doe if they just aren't getting it.
But if you've now done 3 litters, that's 3 months that you've wasted. And that's if you've bred her back to back to back, plus grow out time. It's not worth wasting any more time and money. There's a million does out there that will give you litters and not do that. So unfortunately, it's just kind of the way it works.
Yeah. So got a new user.
Okay.
Money.
Okay.
Said turned on notifications just to catch us in the live YouTube. They purchased property on Sprague River off of Tomahawk Lane.
Oh, you're in the estates.
And we plan on putting up a home this summer.
Okay. Well, welcome to the area. Good luck to you. Tomahawk is on the lower end of the estates, I believe, because the further back in you get into all the bird names and the animal names. I think usually on the front end it's tomahawk and moccasin and teepee and all that fun stuff. So on the lower side, it should be all right.
Yeah.
Further
back you go in, it gets a little
crazier.
Wild. Looks a wild crazy back there.
A little wild back there.
Yep.
That, people always ask us about the estates, and I always tell them the same thing as far as look at your exit points, because you got to remember that in the 10 years that I've been here, almost 10 years, there's been 2 fires up there. One that actually burned into the estates, the other one that just threatened, right? Because bootleg came in and it threatened the backside of the estates and then went east. There's not a lot of exits out of the estates. It's pretty much just the one road in. So if you're down on this end, it's a really good place to be.
Yeah.
Although last year, the year before, they had a fire at one of the houses or trailers right at the entrance and blocked everybody in because everybody was getting nervous up there.
Yeah. Money's in Jordan Valley right now. Very used to the rough drives and rough living.
Yeah, the roads up there can be pretty rough.
Yeah.
There's really the county doesn't maintain them, and it's mostly neighbors. And you used to have a lot of neighbors up there that had big machinery. But most of them lived kind of in a section that got burned out years ago when the fire came up, the Moccasin Hills fire. So I don't know who maintains the road up there. I know it's washboardy as all get out. Just keep that vehicle maintenance up. That's all I can tell you.
Yep.
And watch for roaming dogs. That's going to be a thing and cows.
And horses.
People are not real good. People are not real good at keeping their stuff on their property. So this is a good time to remind everybody, the absolute best neighbors
are fenced
are fences. Fences make for good neighbors. If I can share one lesson I have learned in homesteading, it is that. And it's never us that has been the problem. It has always been neighbors putting the animals either on our property, letting them loose onto our property, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And fences, man, fences, and tight fences. Yeah. First thing on the docket is fencing. Yeah. And security cameras up there. I'm not going to lie to you. Security cameras, very big deal. People have had fences cut open. They've had gates stolen. They've had all kinds of stuff stolen. It's kind of a rough area, depending on which road you're on. I mean, some of them up there are better than others. Like I said, the further back in there, the more Wild West it gets. But fences, gates, security cameras, all vitally important to living in parts of Sprague River these days. So,
yep.
Yeah. We got to do some more of that ourselves this year, but.
Yep. That was when we did our 2023 list, was fencing. We still have mostly barbed wire this year. I think we've got a lot of the netting fence done.
Just a little bit of netting to do along the front. Mostly we were having coyotes come in really bad, and I worry about the collies when we let them out. So we were trying to keep and somebody will tell me that coyotes can jump. Yes, I'm aware. But it slows them down. If they've got to hurdle a 4-foot fence, it does at least slow them down. So naturally, we spent all the time doing the back. So we got the goat areas done. We got the back because that's where the collies play. And sure enough, those suckers figured out that we didn't do the front. So the collies have gone out to the front because we have no neighbors. We own 100 acres down in here. And so unfortunately, they were we've allowed them to run a little bit more than they should, because we go out and do stuff and they go with, and so boundaries can be a bit of a problem. So fencing along the front to keep my collie babies in, because we don't want anybody disappearing. And that's kind of the last of that. And then it's all barbed wire. And I hate barbed wire fencing. And we have, what did I figure out? Almost a mile of barbed wire to do. We've got, well, yeah, a quarter and a quarter and a quarter and a quarter. So yeah, a mile worth of barbed wire. And I'm doing like 5 strands because I want to make sure we keep those cows out.
Yeah. He's just asking if we use Starlink.
Yeah, we don't use Starlink. My dad got Starlink out in Bly. They've been pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
But I have not. I've heard varying things. Some people are saying it is not good. Some people say it's great. So everybody's got a different opinion. We're tied to Verizon. It works. It works good enough out here anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do we got? Almost 6 o'clock.
We're getting pretty darn close.
We're getting close.
Until
I've yacked for already 50 minutes.
Yep.
What else we got going on?
That's pretty much it. I mean, gardening, we're going to put up one of our geodesic domes this year.
Both.
We'll get both of them going. We'll have our normal greenhouse going. We'll fix the Harbor Freight one so that we at least have the racking in there, because I want to do some fire bricks this year.
Yep.
Fencing.
We finally got our buck in to breed. We will have babies June.
Yeah, by June.
We got our Nubians. We are not breeding our Nigerian dwarves anymore. There's no market for them here. And they're just not tasty, delicious little morsels. It takes more work.
Yeah.
So not breeding those anymore. My kinders, I still have a trio of registered kinders. I not as pleased with them as I thought I would be. The quality of the 3. Here's my problem with the kinder goats, and one day I will actually make a video on them, especially since we've now kitted them out 2 or 3 times. My issue with the kinders is that being a developed crossbreed, right? This is how most breeds are created. They're originally a Pygmy Nubian cross. They've developed them into a breed. What I feel like is going on with them is quality is all over the map, right? They do actually, I guess, have a working breed standard. I didn't know about that until I'd had them like 2 years. But there is a wild difference in all 3. We have one doe that I think is everything that you'd want in a kinder doe. She's big, she's robust, she's got a beautiful udder when she's milking. She is a meh mother. She is loud. She's obnoxious. But other than that, in the looks department, she's everything she should be. Now, her sister is quiet, is an even better milker, but probably weighs half of what she does and is on the small side. And she's very fine boned, very dainty. And her kids don't grow in the same way. Our buck, I feel like his rear end is too dairy, meaning that he's too thin and he doesn't have the robust meat qualities that these guys are supposed to have. And so I don't, let's just say I have I guess we've kidded him 3 years. We have kept 2 doe lanes, one of which is probably going away. This last year, we did get a really nice buckling that I might hold on to because we haven't banded him yet. But overall, not impressed. Not impressed enough that I'm going to bring any more in. Not at the rate they're going. I mean, they're going for $300 to $400 a goat, which is fine for a registered goat. But I don't feel that there's the consistency, which I expect out of something that's registered and a purebred. So just not something I'm going to continue on with. I see he's having all kinds of great conversations over here.
Well, Elijah made it in.
Elijah made it. Will this be weekly again? What'd you tell him?
Not sure.
Buddy, we're going to try. We're going to try. That's all I can tell you. So this is actually working.
This is good. So we we have continually upped our data package, and like just days into the new year here, so 3 weeks ago, basically, we were scrolling through like Amazon Prime or something else, and we just kept going, oh, we wanted to see that. Oh, we wanted to see that. Oh man, we need to watch that. And so Nikki finally just went into the Verizon website and was like, look, if we're gonna stream, like, we think the dish is going away in April. Probably that, and so
we don't really watch the dish.
We really don't watch TV very much, but there's all this stuff streaming, and so we're like, well, when we do have, you get the unlimited for a while, and then you hit that data limit, and then it just goes to molasses the rest of the month. So Nikki went in and looked at all the packages, and she's like, okay, look, we can go to this ridiculous package for not a lot more money. Do we want to do that? And so I was like, yeah, let's do it, because we can watch and stream most nights, and do things.
So I have to say to this, if you've been around very long, you know I am a huge Marvel nerd. I am a huge superhero nerd. So Disney has all these series that you have to have Disney Plus for.
Yeah.
And I tried downloading them and watching them on my phone, which is this big, and I feel like I don't see any of it.
Right.
I just don't. So he is a bit of a Star Wars buff. I got really excited about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I thought Kenobi was a great series. But anyway, there's all this stuff now that you can't get anywhere else. And I've got a friend who's always bugging me, you got to watch The Boys on Prime. You got to watch The Boys on Prime. Well, if you don't have any internet connection, that doesn't work. So we got the new package. Of course, we've got tons of download. The problem has always been upload. So
Right.
lives have been a problem. We've been able to download things,
Right.
but it's always been uploading. So far on the new package, it's all working.
Right. Now we're 3 weeks in, so I don't want to say come April that it's going to be fantastic, but so far so good. But I'm surprised. We were just on the cusp. Like the last 2 days, we've sat over here and not used the internet, because we're like, don't use up the last of that internet, because we're going to do a live stream on Wednesday. So, I haven't had my phone on the Wi-Fi for 2 days because,
Because I promised, and then we almost ran out of data.
I know, and we got to, I think, like Monday night, and it said, oh, you only have 10% left. We're like, how do we have only 10% left? We've got to be misers the next 2 days. And
this is the only time of year I watch TV, because once we get to like April, May, I'm outside all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm hitting all these things that I find mildly addictive, like Guardians of the Glade, because we have Disney Plus too, or Discovery Plus. So Guardians of the Glade, because I love snakes, Skinwalker Ranch, and then I've got to catch up on Blind Frog Ranch, which freaked me out because I got an alien thing. So there's all this stuff that I'm trying to catch up on and watch. And then season 2 of Carnival Row is coming out on Prime. So busy. And I'm crocheting and I'm doing other stuff. So
yeah,
I'm not just vegetating in front of the TV.
Well, we still need to finish season 3 of The Boys. We still need to finish The
We're
Rings
very
of Power.
close.
We have like half of it, or 3 episodes left of it. So we're trying to get through all of this stuff. And then we have, I don't know how many series on DVD that we were supposed to watch. So
this is the only we cram whatever TV watching we can until like April, and then we move on.
Yeah, Happy Gardener says it's one of the clearer lives seen in a while.
Well, now that you jinxed us.
Yeah. So any minute now it's going to cut off and go to molasses because we hit our data limit. But
for a long time, it was a good, just over a year after bootleg, the internet here was horrible.
Yeah.
Like horrible.
Yeah, I think it hit 1 or 2 towers.
Yeah, and we're down in a valley, and so it was a little tough. But here, just in the last couple of months, it's improved, and we kept looking at it, going, well, we could start live streaming again, and well, we didn't know. And then now that we've gotten the bigger package, we decided to give it a go. But hopefully, so long as nothing burns down this summer, God help us all. But as long as it doesn't go away, we'll attempt to keep trying.
Yeah.
So what did Mike say? I saw that Mike was on.
He's just saying he was off of Highway 140 rather than in the estates.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think Mike had asked about Blind Mountain.
Yeah.
And Blind Mountain can be kind of a rough area too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it can be. So otherwise,
I don't think they've been around long enough to have many breeding. 100% true. Oh, talking about my kinders.
probably.
Yeah, the kinders are a wild thing. Like I know a gal who's been on the board for a long time in Southern California, and she has great consistency. But she is also a rabbit breeder and with a dog breeder for a long time. I think the problem that I see in kinders, and I think this happens in every new breed, you see a lot of people flock to it because it's the new hotness. They don't know what they're doing. They see dollar signs, right? Because to get into a new breed is usually pretty expensive. So they pay the money, they get into a new breed, and then they cannot, for whatever reason, bring themselves to cull. Because, if you paid $300 for your does, some people look at it and they go, every doe is a $300 doe. Well, it doesn't matter that most of them are really freezer does. They should go into a crock pot. I hear goat is delicious for tacos. And everything makes good tacos. I've yet to see anything that doesn't make a good taco. He's going to think on that.
Plant-based meat.
That's not meat. Meat does not exist from plants. Anyway, so yeah, it happens. And right now we're seeing that we've got some new breeds in Arba for rabbits and some new breeds that have come overseas. And we're seeing the same thing. Like the breeds will suffer for it for a little bit and then it'll improve. The big thing with goats is because it's a longer gestation and it's a longer maturity rate and all that. The improvement is slower to go. And until there's a lot more breeders and people being a lot more selective, it's not going to get any better.
Happy Gardener wants to know when you're going to start your seedlings.
I was actually thinking about that maybe this weekend, at least some of it. So I usually start way too early, but I'm going to try to do onions again this year. I did okay, and then I went out of town and they got killed and they just didn't do very well. But my tomatoes, I started a lot of my tomatoes from seed, and I will admit peppers are a struggle for me for some reason. So I'm going to work on peppers too.
You already started some garlic though, right?
Yeah. I have garlic in pots in the house because it froze outside so early that I didn't get all my garlic out and in. So if the weather stays cold, well, if it stays warm and I can get it out and then put some garlic in, I'm going to try and get some garlic in February. But I totally missed the October window. I potted some that was trying to sprout already in the house. I don't know how well that's going to go, but I did it and it's doing okay so far. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But onions, tomatoes, peppers, I'm probably going to start this weekend. There's something else I was thinking I was going to start this weekend. Tomatillos.
Joanne asked about onions from seeds or starts.
Seeds. I'd always heard that onions from seeds are really, really, really tough to do. I will say, I think what happens is most people get super frustrated and throw them out before they give them half a chance. I'm using a heat mat, and they are taking about 14 to 21 days. They do take a while. But where I really screwed up with them, so I had them coming up and had them looking good, but I used too shallow of a tray. And then they were so thin and spindly, as little onions will be, because they don't grow very fast. I couldn't transplant them for nothing. You couldn't get them. So I found this guy online who said to take some of the bigger, deeper square containers and cut them down. Because the whole thing is, if they're too deep, you don't get the heat off of them for the heat mat. So I'm going to cut them down, basically. And then when they've grown to the bottom of, so you take the ring, and the guy's lining it with like a paper towel or whatever. And you put the ring in, and you put your dirt in, you start them. And then once they've grown down into that paper towel, you pick the whole thing up and you nestle it into a deeper pot. Easy peasy. And now it's got growth room and you don't have to actually like transplant anything. And the idea is that by the time the soil is ready, they're big enough, like the normal plant starts that you buy at the store, they're big enough, then you can pull them apart and plant them. We'll see. I'm giving it a shot. I've always done them by sets. Sets are, I don't feel like you get the same quality of onion as you do if you do plant starts, because the sets tend to be older. So yeah, I'm gonna give them a go again. We don't eat a ton of onions, is the other thing. Yeah. So if it fails, I'll buy some onions. It's kind of what it is.
Yep.
That's what I did last year. I got some. I got enough, but
Elijah's getting ready to do peppers around the 1st. So this weekend or middle of next week.
Yeah. And the Happy Gardener says he's going to start his onions next week.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not real good at, like, I got good germination. Like I said, that was where I struggled, is I couldn't up pot them and I just didn't go deep enough. And so I got a plan. We'll see if it works. But I have a plan to start some stuff. I think if everybody's interested, we do so many educational type videos. And I don't do a whole lot of like what we're doing now videos. But I thought about starting to do like a weekly montage bits and pieces of what did I do this week and show what I'm working on. Because a lot of things are works in progress. And then I start a video, but for whatever reason, we don't ever get it finished. And it's just kind of one of those things. So I start here and then I'm showing the finished product and maybe some stuff along the way. Like, here's how the onion project is going. Because he's my editor, so it's kind of
the hardest part. And I'll tell you from an editing standpoint, it's like most viewers want to see like a story. They want the beginning, they want the meat in the middle, and they want the end.
Right.
And for like growing things, it's like the lifespan like of a dog, right? People want to sit down and watch the life story of a dog. And if your dog lives 10 years old,
yeah,
it's like you're getting all this footage all the way to the end. Well, sometimes, something happens and the end doesn't get there. And, or you get something like the Game of Thrones, right? Or if I have read the book, I'm just going to tell you, I'm reading The Expanse. So I'm on book 4 of that, but it's in a similar, I guess, written way where it's all these stories concurrently running, and every chapter jumps from character to character.
Yeah.
And they're always, you're moving forward, but you're constantly running back and forth.
Well, I feel like what happens is I start the idea of a video, right? But if you're talking about growing onions from seed, you want to see how that outcome is. Well, if I stop to make a video on that, I have to hold video all the way to conclusion for you to see how it goes. Where I'm thinking I might just do a update as I go. And then if you really care, I guess you can go back and look at all the videos, or maybe he'll splice it together at the very end or whatever.
I don't know. I can tell you on the computer, we have folders of footage for videos
that never got
finished. And it's like, they're 3 years old. And it's like, what are we going to do with this stuff? Montage is making chuckle. I wish I took photo history of my seed starts last year.
Yeah, it's really tough. Like I always try and tell people, like, we homestead for a living. The YouTube stuff is fun and we enjoy teaching. And we mean to teach stuff that sometimes just derails, and like a phone will die or a computer will crash, and then then it's like, okay, well, now I can abandon this and start over. Well, maybe it's a project I'm never going to do again.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe we're going to do something a little different this year, of like weekly check-ins on how some of these projects are going, and or bi-weekly, or maybe even monthly, talking about how they're progressing, because the start to finish thing doesn't work. It's just not working.
Yeah.
So I don't know. My editor is over here going, oh God, she's just making more work as I go.
No, we just dump it into a folder. I mean, that's where I normally do it. She'll film a bunch of stuff. I mean, she's the star of the show here, and then I just go in there and dump it all into folders by subject. And we have 2 channels, so I mean, it's, you know, I have to do the same thing with the car stuff I work on it separately. It's the same thing. It's all a lot of times have concurrent projects running that you constantly have to, you know, I did some carbon fiber stuff this winter, and I had 3 different projects running at the same time because they all use the same materials. And so you're constantly taking footage of everything and dumping it out there. And then at the end, you can combine it up. But it's like 6 weeks of work into a 10-minute video.
Well, and we always have so many projects going on. Like I have the mealworm project, and I'll have seed starts here soon. And I have my poultry projects and the rabbit projects and the dairy goat projects. And I say Elijah was asking about quail. Yes. So on the quail, I do still have quail. I have 29, I think, in the greenhouse, and then I saved another 6 that are in another building in case something gets into the greenhouse and eats them before breeding season. I still have jumbos. So I have the jumbo wilds, pharaohs, browns, whatever people are calling them this week. And then I kind of have a color project. So I have some of everything, really. I've got some tuxedos. I've got some Andalusians. I've got some fees. I've got some pansies. I've got all kinds of stuff. So what I've been doing is I've been taking my colors and breeding it into my jumbos to bring those size up, because nobody wants a little bird. And then I've got my true jumbos. I did get some of the jumbo whites, and it was a disaster. So I bought a bunch of eggs, hatched them out, and they slowly killed themselves off. I had the stories I could tell about those stupid whites. So I'm down to 3 out of like 25. And I hate them. They're terribly aggressive compared to the rest of the birds. Which is funny because the one that I'm sure is a male, that little sucker will jump like 18 inches off the ground and try and bite you when you're trying to feed. He is actually the smallest of the whole group. And he keeps trying to fight this pharaoh that is like 3 times his size. And that pharaoh is so nice that he's just like, I don't know what you're doing. And then he'll take it. He'll be like, okay, you're worrying me. And then he'll get mad, and he'll, you know, peck him hard enough to knock him down, and then go on about his business. And then 5 minutes later, that little monster's chasing him around in there again. So he only does it when I'm in there feeding. It's like he's trying to show off for me. Like, look at me, I'm the boss. So I'm not going to do the whites anymore. I didn't really do them to begin with. They're just awful little creatures. But my pharaohs are nice, and my color projects are nice, and I cull for temperament and size. So they're starting to get up in size. But yeah, I still have, I guess that puts me at like 35. And I'll probably cull down to around 20 when I put them back into the breeding pens in like March-ish. I'll probably cull out a little bit. I saved heavy because you just never know what'll happen over the winter. And we've only lost, I think, 2. Well, we lost 2, as in they died. One jumped up, hit the beam at the top of the greenhouse and broke its neck. The other one I just found. And then we lost some while I was gone for convention. We had a windstorm come in, blow the door open on the greenhouse. And so poor Kanan's trying to watch the farm, and he's like, your quail are loose. And when I got home and counted, I realized there were some that were no longer with us that we never found. I'm assuming the cats ate very well. So, yeah.
Yeah, the collies aren't great at catching them.
Baby girl is.
That's true. She'll catch them and hold them.
She puts them in her mouth and runs around with them, and unfortunately, that's not terribly good for them. But yeah.
Dennis asked on update on the rabbitry, showing your successes, cutting down on breeds, numbers, etc., litters.
Oh boy, so it's been a busy last year in the rabbits. So right now we are sitting on Harlequins, Americans, and the Silver Martins. We are bringing in Silver Fox here in the next couple of months. My friends are actively trying to make me some Silver Fox, and there's enough weird stuff going on in Fox. I'm being pretty selective on who I buy from, so I'm just going to get some for my friends. We are down to like 50 something rabbits. lots of empty cages in the barn. We cut way back because our feed has gotten so expensive. I tried to breed in the fall and nobody took. Nobody. Animals have a bit of a sixth sense about things, right? So we got really, really cold in November, December, and even the first part of January a little bit. So I think the rabbits knew better than I did. So I'm not sad that we didn't take. But I'm starting to breed now because unfortunately now I've got nothing for the show season this spring. I showed at convention in October. A little buck that I've got, a little magpie harlequin buck that I thought was fair. He'd been doing all right. Took first place out of like 14 bucks in the junior buck class. Wouldn't have guessed it. The ones that I was most excited to be at convention showing was my Martins, and they were dead last in their class. What I found is that the Martin people play a game of how close can I get my juniors to seniors so they have the most maturity and the best fur. And I brought juniors. Mine were 3.5 months old. They were juniors. The first place junior buck, I want to say, was 5 months and 28 days. They're seniors at 6 months. So they play the game. They were all pretty proud of the fact that there was not a junior over there under 5 months other than mine. So I was completely outclassed, which was kind of a bummer. I know that going forward, that's just how the breed works. Showed the Americans a little bit in the fall, not a whole lot. Out of like 40 something kits, I kept 3. I kept a blue buck, a white buck, and a blue doe. So I did keep a few things. Really hate how the California Americans that I brought in, gosh, it's been 2 years now. Mm-hmm. Really can't stand how they've done. The really heavy New Zealand influence, you can see it. You can see it in how they mother. You can see it in the litter sizes. You can see it in the head shapes and the fur, and it's been a disaster. So the one buck that was the absolute worst about it croaked in the heat over the summer, which is not the end of my world. I had him on the cull list anyway. The son that I kept out of him is far more American-like. He doesn't spray. He is not quite the psychopath that his dad is, wasn't as aggressive, has the better head shape. So that's all looking pretty good. I feel like we're going to have a better year in the Americans this year. I also feel like I'm going to get somewhere with my Silver Martins. If I can just get the darn things to breed. The bucks have been a little sluggish, but I think it's going to be all right. The Harlequins are where we're still sitting on a big question mark. With the price of feed, I cannot decide if I'm going to keep doing the Japanese. Japanese have more things that have to be culled for, color, white spotting, that kind of thing, that you don't get in the magpies. So the big stumbling block there is right now the best rabbits in the Harlequin barn are the Japanese. So we'll breed them all. I mean, we're down to like 22 maybe on the Harlequin front. At one point we had 20 of each color, and we're down to, or each of the groups, and now we're down to just, low 20s. Still got a few animals that are getting really close to being done. I culled everything over 4 this last year, and we've still got a few more that are turning 4. So it's a work in progress. I'm going to do more videos this year on updating how the rabbit program is going, because we've got one program with the Silver Martins that we're really just kind of getting started with, right? We're only a year in. The Harlequins we're now sitting at 10, 11 years on them. So I'd like to talk about where we're at with them, because we've gone forward and we've gone backwards. And then the Americans were 7 years into or so. But we lost a whole bunch of stock just to age. My bad. Didn't keep enough stuff back. And then we had this big influx that we got from California, which was horrible. I did bring a really nice buck in from Tennessee last spring. And so far, what he is throwing is very nice. He is the dad of the blue doe that I kept. And I feel like she's pretty promising. Unfortunately, she's got some temperament issues because her mother is kind of a pain. But overall, she's from my sassy line. I've got what is it? Sarsaparilla? Mom is sassafras. Then the daughter is sarsaparilla, and this one is Saskatoon. So this is my sassy line, and they live up to that. Sassafras this last year, she's like a 3 or 4 year old doe. She's a very aggressive mother, and I have always had her up on a top cage, and I moved her to the bottom this last year when she had a litter and was trying to look at the litter, and she was fighting me and trying to slap me. And I only put up with this when babies are very little. Anyway, I pushed the door open to grab the nest box, and she jumped out of the cage. Liza had come into the barn with me. She came out of that cage growling and chased me and the dog out of the barn. It was kind of embarrassing. When I thought about it later, I was like, I had an 11-pound rabbit that chased me out of the barn. But we went running out of the barn, slammed the door, and she turned around and hopped right back into her cage, and she was all good. And so I had to come in there and take a stick and pop the door back down. It was like, I'll check your babies in a few more days. So yeah, she's been an exciting doe.
Joanne said you should add Sasquatch as a name.
I'm waiting for a buck out of that line. That's what I've got. I've got it set aside for a buck. A friend gave me a name idea, and I'm waiting for a really nice white doe to call Icy Booty Mama. That's my other one. We rabbit breeders are weird, so I've got a list of names that I want to use at some point. So
that's about it.
Yeah.
Happy Gardener had a jet.
Yep.
So.
Well, we're already at 6:20, so yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Since Dennis asked, that's where we're at with the rabbits. Getting ready to start breeding. We've taken some time off. One because of weather, but we had a coal buyer and lost him to, well, it depends on the story that you get, but supposedly to medical problems. So we got stuck in the fall with like 50, 60 rabbits we did not anticipate having to butcher. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of worked out that I didn't actually breed any sooner. And
yep.
Now that we've worked our way through all that, we're ready. We're ready for some more.
Yep. And other thing is just working on house projects. We did a lot of painting. You see the wall back here. This used to be white. The cabinets over there you can kind of see in the dark. Those used to be honey oak.
Yep.
Kind of like an orangey color. They're now green. We repainted all the house. We're doing flooring. We've got a new gas range coming since they're on the contraband list now, depending on who you ask. So lot of stuff still to do on the house.
And now he quit talking. I was gonna wait, and then
so that's okay. Lots of house stuff we're still working through. Still need to finish the mudroom and the sunroom completely.
And I got a screaming deal on flooring, so we're getting ready to redo all the floors in the house.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep it in mind, Elijah. We'll see. I might be able to find you some Americans if you're serious. I am going to go to the ARBA convention in October in Louisville. But I do know some people up that way that are coming down, supposedly. Now we're 10 months out or whatever, but that are supposed to be coming down for convention. There is always a chance I might be able to send some up your way if you're serious about wanting some Americans. They're very spotty. I see a ton of stuff in the Tennessee, Missouri, Arkansas, Georgia area, and it's garbage. Somebody will be watching and be like, hey, I'm in that area. Like garbage. I'm seeing creams and blue torts and weird stuff that does not belong in Americans. And they're breeding all kinds of weird stuff. There's a couple guys working on just blacks, and black isn't recognized. It's never going to be recognized. I don't know what they're doing. But that's another one of those cases of, hey, look, we're a rare breed, so we're going to sell anything and everything. And they're taking deposits on rabbits at 6 weeks that you have no idea what they're going to look like. Which has brought me to, I'm going to be doing a video here very shortly talking about when to call at what ages and that sort of thing. So yeah, more videos coming up.
Elijah's out.
Elijah's out. We need to be out too. Kanan's looking hungry. Dogs are out of food.
Yeah.
We got to go. So
yeah, it's been an hour and a half.
Yeah. So we're going to try next week. Do you want to try next week?
To me, it depends on what subject we have. Like today, I think we had enough. We hadn't done one. We could talk about.
I've got a couple ideas.
Okay, if we have a subject, then we can try for it.
You know what that means? I need questions. You'll have to send me questions or topics. You can send them to me via email, srhomestead@yahoo.com.
Right.
You can send them to me on Facebook. You can send them to me on Instagram.
Right.
If we got stuff to talk about, and if I've got a topic or questions to answer, we will do one next week.
Yeah. I guess I just don't want to commit to it if we don't really have anything to talk about.
Like I ever need anything to talk about.
Yeah, I know. Anyway.
Does this guy even know me?
All right. Let's go.
All right, guys. See you guys next time. Happy homesteading.
I think you had hit the X, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, actually I do.